How's it going, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to the new and updated Speedroid deck profile. I said at the end of the final episode of One Deck One Month with Speedroids that I'd be trying to get a deck profile out to you guys ASAP, and I'm sorry it took a little extra day or two. My apologies, but here is the profile, and I hope you guys enjoy it. This is a going second variant. I did have variants with a Battle Wasp engine, with like the combo variant, which I think I've shown in like maybe episode 3 of One Deck One Month with Speedroid. So if it's not there, I might upload that variant at a separate date. But I figured I'd bring you guys the build that is my most recent build, and is the build that I currently agree with the most as far as Speedroids is concerned in this current meta. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do, you know, the quick and undetailed profile, and then we'll slow it down after that and do the more detailed breakdown of the deck. I also have a side deck to show you guys as well. We'll get to that at the very end. I also want to mention, if you guys want to support the channel by picking up some amazing sleeves, or, you know, play mats like the one you see me using here, or perhaps this beautiful dark themed deck box, it's all from ImperiumDuelist.com, and you guys can get this stuff for 10% off using my discount code WinterKills10off at checkout. And of course, it is a great way to support the channel and get some awesome high quality gear, such as the stuff you see me using in pretty much all my videos. And also, if you guys are buying anything in TCG Player, do not forget to use my affiliate link down in the description below when you buy anything on TCG, because a small bit of your revenue from your purchase will go right back into the channel, which does help out a tremendous amount. So with all that out of the way, and also, yeah, I should mention, if you guys want deck profiles like this early, consider becoming a channel member today by clicking that join button down below. But let's go ahead and get into the profile here. We'll start with the monsters, then the spells, and then I don't think we're running any traps, so just the monsters and the spells this time around. We have 3 copies of Win the Wind Chandler, then we have 3 copies of Speedroid Marble Machine, 3 copies of Primitive Butterfly, 1 copy of Red-Haired Hasty Horse, 1 copy of Terror Top. Then we have 3 copies of Car Turbo, 3 copies of Tekatomborg, 2 copies of Rubber Band Plane, 1 Double Yo-Yo, 2 Dendendaiko Duke, and then some of my favorites here, the Ancient Warriors Loyal Guanyon at 2 copies, and then the last 3 monsters in the main deck, just 3 copies of the Best Wind Hand Trap, Droll, and Lockbird. So now we'll go into the spells. For our spells, we have 3 copies of Speed Recovery, 3 copies of the Forbidden Drippy Droppy, 3 copies of the Triple Tactics Talent, 2 copies of Lightning Storm, 1 Instant Fusion, and 1 Reasoning. And you can sort of see now why this is a going second variant. So now that's it for the main deck. Should be 40 cards. Now we'll take a look at the extra deck. And to start for the extra deck, we have our Synchro Monsters, which consist of not 1, but 2 copies of High Speedroid Kite Drake, 2 copies of Crystal Wing. We're bumped down from 3, I believe, since the last profile. 1 Wind Pegasus, 1 Clearwing Fast Dragon, 1 Stardust Charge Warrior, 2 copies of High Speedroid Chanbara, 1 High Speedroid Hagoita, just 2 copies of Rubber Band Shooter, 1 Totem Bird, 1 Mizrithim the String Djinn, and of course our instant fusion target that invoked Raijin. Now that is it for the full main and extra deck. Now we're gonna go ahead and talk about the deck in more detail. All right, so now comes what is probably my favorite part about doing deck profiles, you know, the more detailed, in-depth breakdown of, you know, my card choices, etc., etc. So first we're gonna start with our starters. I'm not gonna do too much of an emphasis on card rolls. I'm just gonna, you know, go through the deck in that order. So I'll let you guys know when we get to the extenders and things like that or whatever. So we are playing 13 starters. And I'm gonna have a lot to say about this part. I wouldn't be surprised if this part is very long, because I just played this deck, you know, for a month straight. Eat, sleep, breathe Speedroids for a month straight, so I've got a lot to get off my head. And I'll probably even make a guide video about this afterwards, because I could just talk and you know, leaps and bounds about this deck. But first thing we have here is the Win the Wind Chandler. This card, it's fantastic. Basically, you just discard it and another wind to search a wind monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck, but you do get locked into winds. But that's fine. Literally everything we play in here is winds. I wouldn't consider ever running any niche engine cards or extra deck choices that aren't wind, because I just don't want any conflictions. This deck already has enough issues as is in terms of consistencies, so you don't want any conflictions. You just want to sort of play along okay, we're always locked into wins, etc., etc. And it's never really an issue, because this card can search Droll and Lockbird too, which is pretty absurd if you think about it. And it also searches pretty much every other card in our deck as well. So fantastic card. But this card, it's a pretty skillful card, I would say, because yeah, it's a discard 2 to, you know, search Terror Top, right? But you'd have to be very, very conservative with this card, because we are playing a going second deck. This deck loves to, this version loves to blind second. So if you think about it in this sense, you know, the quickest way to lose going second is to start off by going -2 by using this card incorrectly. It can be very tempting to pitch this card in like a Duke to start your turn immediately, to, you know, go for a Terror Top. But that's really not how you want to play this variant. I find I like to use this card as like one of my last plays if I can help it. You know, use your worst cards first and your best cards last, so they say. I kind of like to hold this card if, you know, if need be, because Droll and Lockbird is one of those cards, like if it doesn't come up in your first hand, which against it doesn't really come up against a lot of decks, I would say. I mean, it does, but you know, there'll be some chances where it doesn't, and you can just kind of use that card as like discard fodder or whatever. But you know, this deck has a very specific way it likes to play. It likes to basically force Kite Drake first, and then play off what happens to the Kite Drake. You know, if this dies, you get to search Terror Top, and if the Terror Top doesn't go through, you know, you can use a backup like Win to grab something else, because at that point you ideally haven't committed your normal summon yet. So this card you need to be careful with. Same thing with a combo variant. Like this card I learned so much about, because like you just have to be careful. It's a -2 if it doesn't go through. You want to do your best to like set it up, you know, thinking that it's going to get negated. You always want to think, you know, okay, this card is always going to get negated, so just play around that fact. And then if it doesn't get negated, then, you know, good for you. You just got a free Terror Top. So I just wanted to bring that point up. 3 Marble Machine is our main normal summon for the deck. We are only playing, I believe, you know, 3 dedicated main normal summons. Of course, Terror Top can exist as a normal summon, and so it can double Yo-Yo. This is like your main go-to Stratos. We can technically play 6 copies because of Win, but basically on normal summon and normal summon only, so you can't get it off double Yo-Yo, you search a Speedroid monster, and then you get locked into Wins after that. So yeah, great card, incredible consistency card, and it's a level 2, which is important because a lot of times I'd win my games by Kite Draking and then following up with Chanbara, you know, by either searching this off of Win or just having it in my hand and, you know, not having committed the normal summon yet, by plays that we'd made with cards I'm about to show you. Yeah, great card. The fact that it's level 2 is huge. I wish I could play more level 2 non-tuners, but this is the only one that's worth playing. 3 Primitive Butterfly. If you control no monsters, you can special on this card from your hand. And then has another effect. Once per turn, you can increase the levels of all insect-type monsters you currently control by 1. That effect doesn't come up, and it hasn't really come up for me. It actually might come up more once the new visual or virtual world card is out. So I guess that because you can make this card a level 6. But this card it fits into the scheme of the entire strategy of this deck. Same thing with like Hasty Horse and, you know, Rubber Band Plane, is that we're trying to commit as little as we can in our first, you know, turn, by getting into this card and basically just seeing what happens after that. If the board wipe goes through or the mass negate goes through, and basically we're using level 5 monsters like Primitive Butterfly, Hasty Horse, etc., paired with any of our level 3 tuners, machine tuners, to get right into Kite Drake to force it as like one of our first main actions. And then if that doesn't go through, you know, maybe we can search the Terror Top off the Kite Drake or use Win after that, after the burn and negate, you know, right? And just haven't, you know, then commit the normal summon and then try to push even more after that. So that's sort of the gimmick behind this deck, is trying to do as much damage without, you know, committing your normal summon. And then, you know, at that point, they've probably given you some good cards or burned a few negates on things that aren't really super important to your strategy. And then just take advantage of that and kind of win from there via OTK. Because this deck can OTK 100% with Car Turbo, Chambra, etc. You don't need much to OTK. Hasty Horse is like a worse Butterfly going second, but Hasty Horse is a better Butterfly going first. And I only wanted to go 1 Hasty Horse, and my friend Adam gave me the idea to do this because Hasty Horse has a much higher chance of being dead going second than it is going first, because you have to summon this card to a column with no cards. And there's been a few times playing against like Dogmatic and Invoke decks where like every column is taken up because either trying to play around Mech Knights or, play around this, that, and the other thing. So like odds are this card can be dead if there's no free column. And you could make it live, but you'd probably have to play into their field a little bit. Then this card just kind of sits there and doesn't really help you that much. But yeah, Hasty Horse, I would play at 3 if we were going first, but I think it's fine at 1 for going second. Terratop, of course, the OG, the GOAT. You gotta play the Terratop. He's the best. Again, if you control no monsters. So that's the thing, and there's a recurring theme. If we control no monsters, some of our best cards in this deck say, if you control no monsters. Terratop is a perfect example. So we're trying to play off of that idea. And one of the cards in the deck later on in the spell lineup kind of helps us facilitate that a bit more, and also helps us go second. Because like I said, it's like Kite Drake, immediately beeline to Kite Drake, wipe their field, and then Chambra OTK with Card Turbo. And then our other 2 starters here are Instant Fusion and Reasoning. Reasoning is like crack in this deck. It pretty much always goes through, and the fact that you can get a win off of it, or a Butterfly, or a Rubber Band Plane, is just incredible. And you can also just mill speed recoveries to the graveyard, which is pretty nice, that you can use, the next turn. So that's pretty nice. And like get free level 5s for Kite Drake, or just get Terratop, it's pretty cool. Instant Fusion. A lot of people argue like it's not worth playing because it's a one of and it takes up a spot in the extra deck, but I don't really see that as being sort of like a negative, because I have the space for it, and it's a very good starter that doesn't take up my normal summon. It was like, do I play this or Tetherwolf? Well, the simple fact that this isn't a normal summon tells me that I should play it over Tetherwolf. And like the fact that it's a one of also doesn't concern me. Like Terratop's a one of as well, so like just because it's a one of doesn't mean I'm not going to play it if it greatly helps my strategy. Like if Engage came back to 1, would Sky Striker players not play it simply because it was just at 1? No, obviously not. Instant Fusion is a great card going first because it can summon Ragin, which is a level 5, which again fits into that Kite Drake Turbo strategy. And then for our Superior Extenders, we have 3 copies of Card Turbo, and that should have been 13 starters as well. So we have 3 Card Turbo. If you control Wind Monster, just special summon this card from your hand. Again, it's literally free real estate in every sense of the imagination, because like Plane in this, or Primitive Butterfly in this, or Hasty Horse in this, or Win off of Reasoning, or Ragin off of Instant Fusion in this, right to Kite Drake, just immediately. And then you still have this card engraved to boost up whatever monster you bring out next to push for a lot of damage, or just, it's in the grave to be revived off of didnt Daigo Duke. 3 Tekatomborg. I love this card. A lot of people like to ash this card, which is kind of funny because then they're not going to be able to ash your Terratop. This card I've also kind of been learning to not always tag out with too. Sometimes I'll just leave him on the field to Ixie summon with, especially for like Miserytham or Totem Bird, because I find like sometimes you're missing or lacking just a normal level 3 monster that isn't a tuner, because like Terratop right now is the only card in the deck that is a level 3 and isn't a tuner. So Tekatomborg you can kind of use in a different way than you're used to using them, if you have the right board. Then we have 2 Rubber Band Plane. I decided to bump to 2 because again there's a much higher emphasis on free level 5 special summons in this deck than there were in previous builds, and like having an extra copy later on, or to get off Rubber Band Plane potentially, or just even open this card is kind of nice. It's a great option to have, like especially like since we play so many level 8s in the extra deck, you can just go get this and like a Terratop, or like this and didnt Daigo Duke. Like it's just I think I really do like playing 2 of this card. I even might go to 3, but I think 2 is fine now. Then we have 3 Speed Recovery. Monster Reborn, that's not a once per turn, and then its Graveyard Effect, which is also not a once per turn but can't be used the turn it's sent. It's really good. Like this card is one of the main reasons why I think a control version of this deck could exist. Like you could main Anti-Spell Fragrance and maybe even Imperial Order, probably more so Anti-Spell, but you can just use this card in the grave under Anti-Spell and things like that, and just recur back some of your best cards, like Terratop, like Double Yo-Yo, or Tekatomborg, or Card Turbo, whatever it may be. So this card is great, fantastic, I love it. yeah, anytime you see speed recovery, like, your hand's usually going to be very good. Unless you draw 3 speed recovery, then it's not that good. But 1 double yo-yo. I really think this card is actually necessary. I know Aerosol was talking about possibly, you could potentially cut this card, so you could free up space in the extra deck to not play level 7. But I actually have really fallen in love with the idea of just playing this card, and especially with the going second variant, like, we have so much more space in the extra deck because we don't have to run Cicada King, Martial Metal Marcher, and Auroradon in the extra, so we can actually play those good level 7s now, and get this card off of Rubber Band Shooter, and I find that's very advantageous because that's a really good play to do if you haven't burned your normal summon. That will end you on double Crystal Wing, or maybe even a Totem Bird on top of it, depending on how well you opened. Because the key is to not have to use Rubber Band Shooter's other effect that locks you into Synchros, because that'll allow you to get into Totem Bird, which is great, having that spell and trap interruption. But this card, like I said, it's a great card to have in here as that extra utility that you'll need in some cases if you have to go first, because your opponent still might make you go first, and if you do, you're gonna want that backup plan. And especially since we play so many cards that get things on the field and as a part of that turbo aspect, that this going second build likes to play around. The odds of being able to get into a Rubber Band Shooter without committing a normal summon is exponentially higher now, so that just makes double yo-yo even better. And then we have just 2 Didnt Duke. I thought maybe going to 3 would be fine because, it's another level 3 tuner normal summon that we can, like, see easier and see faster. But 2, I think, is literally the gold number. I think that's all it comes down to. Now we have next, I guess, removal. But this card is also kind of a pseudo starter in a sense, and that is the Ancient Warriors Loyal Guan Yun. Shout out to Aerosol TCG for turning me on to this card. I wouldn't have thought about this card otherwise until you brought it up in a comment on one of my videos. But this card is crack. I love this card. This card is so good. If you guys saw the final episode of One Deck One Month against the final match against Invoke Dogmatica, this card came in clutch big time, and it's come in clutch so many other times since. Going to an Invoke board and just dropping this onto the field and being like, pop, and then battle phase run something else over that's problematic. Like, they're only a Dogmatica monster on field, so it just kind of turns off Fleur-de-Lis or whatever. And then in most cases, they're gonna try to get rid of this card because it's gonna clear 2. It's like almost a better Pankratops in the sense that, like, you don't have to tribute this card off. Granted, you do need to have less monsters than your opponent does, but, like, going second, that's a pretty good thing to be able to bank on, that your opponent is probably going to have more monsters than you do. They're going to, and if they don't, they're going to have 1, which means their field is probably going to be pretty easy for you to break. And the reason I say this card can act as a pseudo starter is because it's a win monster that gets itself on the field without using its normal summon, but that's not its primary purpose, of course. Now we're going to move into, I guess this is more so along the lines of removal, reactive reactive extenders, I guess. I guess these cards can all sort of act like that. More so this card first, and that card is Triple Tactics Talent. Going second, I love this card a lot. I don't know how I feel about talents going first. I don't know. It's a good card all around. Don't get me wrong. It's just not Called by the Grave. And I think this card helps this deck out much more going second than it does going first. Because again, like I said, you have that easy interaction at the start of your turn, Kite Drake. Like, if you don't negate this, you're probably going to lose. And that means it's always going to force some kind of negation, which gives you a higher chance of making Triple Tactics Talent live. So again, fantastic card, love it. And then this card, I think, was like the missing piece in my opinion. I was playing Forbidden Chalice, and I think Forbidden Chalice is a good budget option. So if somebody asks for a budget option for this card, and they still ask, even though I already said it, like, please watch with volume so I don't have to repeat myself, because I know someone's going to say it. As far as a budget option for this, I don't know. I would say maybe play Forbidden Lance. But Forbidden Droplet, this card is perfect. It was literally the missing link, because I was thinking, if we're playing a going second deck, and it's a deck that sort of can play off the idea of having no monsters on the field. Again, for cards like Primitive Butterfly, cards like Ancient Warriors, Loyal Guanyin, cards like Terratop. You know, what's a card that we can play that helps facilitate that strategy and also helps us to play into boards? Forbidden Droplet. And it's the perfect thing. Because, like, you can go Kite Drake, you can go Chambra, or, you know, assemble a nice little field, and they're trying to, you know, use any of their monsters, whatever it may be. You can just droplet them away, negate their cards, they can't respond to it, and then your field is also wide open to make some of your best cards live again. So, like, I really love Droplet here. I think it was, like, that card that I was missing. And I was like, what's a card that I can play that can help clear cards on my field and, like, you know, make our best cards live? You know, I'm repeating myself, but, like, it works so well. I love Forbidden Droplet in here. And then just more generic spot removal, I guess. Lightning Storm. If you control no face-up cards. Again, it fits perfectly with that strategy. This card, in this deck specifically, sometimes doesn't even need to be your first play, which is incredible. Because, like, after you see them burn that first pivotal interruption and your field is open again, you can just Lightning Storm them. And then they burn and negate, and if they don't, they lose their field, and then you just Terratop them. And I'll say it again, like, the ideal goal is to burn as many of their interruptions as possible, without either, you know, committing a normal summon and then just, like, following up with a Terratop. And then we're playing 3 Floodgates, I guess. Droll and Lockbird. It's a wind, it's searchable, it's incredible all around, especially this format. It's a great card. The extra deck, we have 2 copies of Kite Drake. This card I almost considered playing 3, and I still might play 3 in the future. This card is incredible. 1 Wind Machine Tuner, 1 non-tuner monsters. You know, destroy all other cards in the field or negate the effects of all face-up cards your opponent currently controls. And then it says, if this card in your possession is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, you can add 1 Speedroid monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of High Speedroid Kite Drake once per turn. So I guess technically, another interesting thing, it says you can only use each effect. So that's also an interesting thing. So, like, you could technically make 2 Kite Drakes in a turn. The first one threatens the board wipe, and then, like, the second one threatens the negate, and one of them is also probably going to get you a surge. So if I am reading that correctly, yeah, you can only use each effect once per turn. So that means you can use all of them, but only once each. So I just literally discovered that just now, no cap. Like, so yeah, this goes to show how good this card is, how easily it can be accessed, and then if it gets negated or hits the graveyard in any way, shape, or form, even if you summon this card and they judgment it, you can still search because it's still being sent in your possession to the graveyard. It doesn't matter that the summon got negated. You know, it's just, if it hits the grave, it's fantastic. I love this card. And like the fact that this card and Chambra are both in-engine cards kind of makes me just, you know, think why haven't I started from the beginning playing this as going second deck when it has, you know, so obviously built-in going second cards within the deck. I don't know. I guess Crystal Wing was too tempting. But speaking of Crystal Wing, you have to play 2 of these in my opinion still, because this deck can still churn out double Crystal Wing without the Auroradon engine with, I'm still pretty sure, like, just even Marble Machine and Tekatomborg. I think with those 2 cards, you can still end double Crystal Wing. You can still end double Crystal Wing Totem Bird, I believe, as well. You do need speed recoveries, though. But you still need, like, you know, something up your sleeve if you do have to go first. You don't want to just be dead in the water going first and, you know, make a Chambra or a Kite Drake going first, because that won't do you anything. Level 7s, Wind Pegasus and Clearing Fast Dragon. Usually I banish this card off of the Rubber Band Shooter because you can still access a nice extra deck monster negate, which is really good this format, I heard. And another reason why I think this deck has a really good matchup against some of the best decks in this format is because of Kite Drake and Wind Pegasus are both prime cards to send to the graveyard off Maximus that just let you plus inherently. They think they're making you go minus, but really you're just going plus. You're getting a protection plus a potential Terratop Surge, which is great. So I love these 2 level 7s. Only 1 level 6. I cut Raptite because Raptite in a going second build doesn't really make sense, and Raptite I've found continuously to be lackluster with this deck overall anyways. But having this card to potentially draw side deck cards going first, or even going second, whatever it may be, like, it's great. And this card can go up to 2800 potentially with Card Turbo and attack over every monster your opponent controls. So that's also pretty enticing, and it draws you a card too, which is kind of nice. Then double Chambra. Wanted to go double Chambra simply because it is a going second build. If this card hits the grave, you get to add back a banished Speedroid card. So again, another really good card to send if they Maximus you late game, just to add back a banished Terratop. And that's one thing I usually like to do. If I know I have a Chambra play coming, or if I know I'm going to get Maximus, I usually try to banish Card Turbo and Terratop. Because if this hits the grave, it means I can just add back that Terratop, and then if I have Speed Recovery, I don't have to use the Speed Recovery on getting back the Terratop. I can use it to get back something else like a Marble Machine. Well, Marble Machine would probably ideally be in the extra deck, but, you know, get back a Tekatomborg, or get back a, you know, Card Turbo, whatever it may be. Yeah, and like, even like if your OTK doesn't go through, you can like link this guy off and like go into Rubber Band Shooter, especially if you haven't used your normal summon. But in most cases, you probably have. But even then, it's not the end of the world. You can link this off or synchro this into a Crystal Wing. Get a card back in the process and get a Crystal Wing. So like this card is very, very versatile, and I need to get secret rares. But I love Chambra. And one Hugwite to steal because again, this card is really good for making double Crystal Wing. So I like it for that reason. Double Rubber Band Shooter. I think you just need to. No matter if you go first or second, maybe you could still play one, but there's going to be that, you know, once in a blue moon game that comes up that you're going to lose if you don't have two of these. So I think that's why I want to play two still. Then for our Ixies, we have one Totem Bird and one Miserythm. Basically, this card says when a Jin Ixies monster control is attacking an opponent's monster during the damage step, you can detach one Ixies material from this card. The attacking monster's attack is doubled until the end phase. So this guy under Card Turbo goes up to 23, and under his own effect, he goes up to 46. So it means he gets over a lot of cards. He gets over Dragoon, which is a huge thing, because Dragoon, of course, is a problem going second. It gets over a lot of cards, and it's very important. And it's also, especially since it's like a rank 3 Crystal Wing. You're not going to always be able to access Crystal Wing with this deck going second. If you're not trying to, especially if you're trying to go the more board wipe route with like Kite Drake, Chambra, etc., you're much more likely to be able to get into this card than you are Crystal Wing. If you're not planning for a Crystal Wing play. And then Totem Bird is just fantastic because it is a spell and trap negate that this deck can access. And then one Invoke Ragent because it's our instant fusion target. It's a wind. It's a level 5. It's perfect. Then the side deck. Alright, so the side deck I'm very, very proud of, and it's kind of spicy if I do say so myself. So I was going to play Anti-Spell until I remembered that this card existed, Spell Canceller, which also happens to be a wind, also happens to be a level 5, and also happens to be a machine. And you can get this card off Reasoning, which is like one of the only spells that stays in my deck if I'm going second, or in games 2 or 3 where I'm probably going to be siding this card in. Because it's potentially a 4th spell canceller. And I find now decks have a very hard time dealing with this. They can't droplet it. They can't Dark Ruler it. They can't Lightning Storm it. Like, the thing with Anti-Spell is it puts you on a clock where, like, if that Anti-Spell doesn't, like, allow you to win the game if your hand is bad, you know, you're gonna miss that window of opportunity because they're gonna set their spells and then they're gonna play them next turn, which is unfortunate. This card outright just says they're not gonna be able to use them, and I'm pretty sure this card can turn off Mystic Mine as well while it's on the field. I could be wrong, but like this card is incredible, and I'm so happy I played it and would play it 10 out of 10 times again. 2 Nibiru for that pesky combo matchup if you know what we have isn't enough already. 2 Ogre for those certain, you know, combo / control matchups that, you know, Ogre addresses really well. One of those being like Subterror decks with like Numeron. This card hits the network and it's very, very good, or it hits the Zexal. So Ghost Ogre is very good for those specific things. Then we have 3 Gozen match. Because again, we play all wins, so why not play into that, you know, strategy? If we're locking ourselves into wins, why not lock our opponent into wins? And then we, of course, have 3 evenly matched. And then I wanted to play Cosmic Cyclone, but I didn't want it to conflict with that of Spell Canceller. So what's a good spell and trap removal that exists in the form of a trap? And that, in my opinion, is Unending Nightmare. You know, Cosmic Cyclone is going to make us pay life points, so why not just go all out and, you know, use Unending Nightmare? It turns off, you know, potentially cards like Mystic Mine, any sort of field spells, you know, Magical Meltdown, of course. I really do like this card. I like it quite a bit. I haven't tested it too much, but in theory, I think it could be better than Cosmic. Maybe I'll just play Typhoon instead. You know, the hand trap that kind of negates or can like destroy spells and traps and stuff. But I do like this card quite a bit. It helps against those really problematic matchups like Numeron, even Invoked variants, because again, you're just clearing their stuff, or against Subterror, which this deck has a hard time against, which is one of the decks I lost to. The only deck I lost to in the last locals that I took this deck to, which was Numeron, not Subterror, but again, Subterror is also pretty hard. And usually if I know I'm going first, if I'm going first against combo, I'm siding out basically, and this is pretty nice because like I like the fact that I'm not siding that much and I know exactly what to side. So if I'm going like first, I'm siding out all of these cards right here, all of these 8 spells if I'm going to go first. Because obviously, you know, Lightning Storm and all those cards aren't that great going first. These are going in, right, 3 Canceller, so I can cancel my opponent, and then, you know, 3 goes in, and then, of course, the 2 Unending, if the Unending is, you know, needed, or I'm going to go with, like, 2 Ghost Ogre, or I'm going to go with, like, you know, 2 Nibiru. It really depends on the matchup. Like, those are, like, the 8 slots that you have, like, against pretty much every deck. And Spell Canceller pretty much hits every deck, too. And then if I'm going second against combo, you know, right, all I need to really side in is just, like, the 2 Nibirus and then, like, the triple evenly match. Like, that's all that needs to go in. And you could even take out, like, specifically going second, like, you could cut these, perhaps. Or you could even cut like a rubber band plane, or what else? If you're also going second, you could also cut the red-haired hasty horse, although I probably wouldn't. But you really only just need 3 cards. Like, and if Droll Knockbird isn't that great, you know, you could even side out the Droll. So you could side out like these 5 cards for these cards, and then you have all of this right here, you know, to go into boards with. Or you could side out the 2 Loyal Guanyin, a rubber band plane, the double yo-yo, and then maybe even like instant fusion or a speed recovery or whatever, right? You know, there's lots of options. So and like we already have so many cards for going second. I really only wanted to side like 5 cards additional for going going second decks, yeah, where like this stuff wouldn't be enough, I guess. Or maybe you could drop Lightning Storms for the Nibirus, or whatever. But yeah, that's the sideboard. It's been working very, very well for me. And I think if I were to continue playing this deck again at locals, maybe on the side, this is probably a side deck that I would use. Probably definitely use like 99% of it. The only thing I'm unsure on is like the Unending Nightmares, but I think in theory they could be like perfect. So yeah, that's it for this in-depth Speedroid deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like for your boy Terratop here if I could find him. Leave a like for Speedroids. Leave a like for all that good stuff. Go check out the One Deck One Month with this deck. If you haven't, basically it's a 4-part series where I play this deck non-stop for 4 weeks straight, basically about a month at locals. You know, at every main event, Saturday locals that I go to, and then, you know, a couple side locals here and there. So definitely go check that out if you haven't heard of the series yet. If you haven't seen any of it yet, go watch it. It'll help you out a lot, and it'll just show my entire progression of this deck over a month. And I still make a guide video talking about just, you know, Speedroid theory in general, because I love this deck so much. I think it has a lot of potential, especially as a rogue strategy, and like especially since like it can play Spell Canceller so well, and Floodgates so well, and go second so well, because of Kite Drake and Chambra and things I've already talked about. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, Winterkill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And last but not least, a huge shout out goes to our Divine Level channel members here on YouTube, Academic Thick, Zors, and Cadillacs84. Again, thank you guys as always so much for continuing to generously support the channel.